We at the University of Queensland Business School has put together a corporate course called Supply Chain Management. The course has been specifically designed around what we believe to be the needs of many organisations here in Australia. We focus on Australia, but within the context of a global operation. We bring in many experts, each bringing their own specialisation, experience and years of application. We have the benefits of both the theory and real-world application. The course is fundamentally in two parts. Very functional, where we would discuss and identify the needs of transport and warehousing and stock control and inventory, where the other half is very much at the strategic level, looking at all the forces that are at play on every business, globalisation and the ever-rampant demands of new technology. So we think you're probably in a position where you can design from scratch a supply chain. How do you feel? Confident?
One of the main features we deliver in our supply chain management executive workshop series for our participants is that we take them through a journey of understanding the tools, the techniques and the methodologies available to them to deliver change in their own supply chain environment back in the workplace. We teach them about team establishment and team engagement, people engagement, about process mapping and the use of metrics to allow them to actually capture and dimension their own supply chains and identify where the bottlenecks and the constraints are and how to alleviate those bottlenecks and constraints to go forward and make improvement in their own business.
The case study we ran this morning here at UQ Business School downtown was a bit of a wrap of all the stuff the guys have been through this week. It's been a very intense period. They've covered a lot of territory, and the pleasing part was that they were able to implement most of those strategies, at least understand the processes they needed to go through, and they applied many of the principles that were outlined during the course of the week. The case study is a real one, albeit it was spread over 12 years. These guys had 2.5 hours to work through a case study that took 12 years to evolve. They obviously had less information, but despite that, they came up with most of the logic and questions that would need to be asked, and in many cases came up with the answers.
Just put transport up there too, but otherwise I'm really happy with that.
We've moved people from almost no understanding of supply chain principle, project management, to demonstrating to themselves, most importantly, that the application of that logic does have benefit, is applicable in their circumstances, and probably most importantly, that they're able to do it themselves.
Hey, I'm from IGA Distribution. I decided to take on this course to try and take a step back from our operation. Day to day we get caught up in our own environment and focus on what we do and do forget about the rest of the chain. So by coming here I thought I could mingle with other people, get to know their business and better understand the full supply chain process.
You can't just provide people with a simple answer. You can't at the end of the day say the answer's X. You actually have to tell them how you got there, because half of this is about education. They got you in the door, your customers got you in the door because they can't actually solve it themselves. So they want to know, if you don't impart that information to them, they can't come to the same conclusion you came to.
I'm from Merce Logistics. We're a logistics supply chain organisation who assists other companies in their supply chain needs. The reason for my ambition to be here was to understand what they're really looking for in their business, understanding what's happening in the market and within their organisation, so we can assist them to grow their business while growing ours. You can't get out of your head what's the answer, but you know, when you break it down, you got so much extra detail that if you were just trying to get the answer, you wouldn't have thought of. So there is a logical process to it. There is a process to this still. For me, going back into my organisation, what I can take back is a very structured process, understanding exactly who it is that I need to engage, how I can engage them, and the tools and techniques that I can use in order to get the right outcome.
I'm working for Australasian Lubricants Manufacturing Company. We produce lubricants for the Australian market. I came to this course here to actually see what are the latest developments in supply chain management, to give our organization an opportunity to drive our performance forward, and to see what the latest developments and technologies on the market are. The course has been excellent for me because I had the opportunity to see what is actually out in the market, and various presentations by either academic people or people out of the industry sort of gave me a fairly good insight into new developments, especially with the changing market and our environmental consciousness. One of the presentations was about greenhouse gas emissions and legislations around that. Our company definitely has to look far more into that. We have done a fair bit on this, but I think with additional information I gained out of this presentation, we can actually check whether we are on the right track.
QMI Solutions is a manufacturing consultancy working with small to medium manufacturers. I'm one of the consultants there, and my task is to introduce best practice to those companies. Quite often we find that after a company has its own processes in order, it's their supply chain that it's the main area of focus. The most valuable part of this course to me is the change management and project management aspect, which of course is important in all consulting projects, but even more so in supply chain, because you've got a much broader range of stakeholders and companies and interests that you need to consider. It's a much more complicated task. So there's absolutely no need for the planned maintenance to service it from 40 different sites. So the main central solution was a single big DC, which had a whole pile of advantages. Was that you could do it a lot better, your stock would be allocated, you'd invest in better systems, your environmental would be done better at a single point. I also really liked the applying some of the latest management principles that I'm familiar with in a supply chain context, and I thought it was a very valuable course.
At the conclusion of the course, you will take away those skills and attributes and experience of working with others as part of your group, and when you go back to your organisations, you'll have the opportunity to introduce many of these techniques that you've learned during the week, looking to improve customer and supplier relationships, looking to introduce seamless operations to gain those productivity gains and the effective ways of working that will allow us to compete in this dynamic global marketplace.